So we will go ahead.
This meeting is being recorded.
We will go ahead and get started. So thank you all and welcome to this program of the University of Arkansas Small Business Technology and Development Center. If you don't know about the Small Business Development Center, we are a one-stop shop for startups and existing small businesses. We are associated with the University of Arkansas and affiliated with the SBA and ASBTDC, as well as a national network of more than 1,000 small business centers. Locally, we offer complimentary one-on-one consulting that includes business planning, market analysis, financial projections, as well as seminars and webinars just like this one that are relevant topics for business owners. If you are not already a client, we would love for you to visit us at sbtdc.uark.edu. And also, I will put my email in the chat box, but my email address is ccase@walton.uark.edu. So I want to make sure that you guys have, if you have any questions or want to get together one-on-one after this session, I would love to be available to do that for you guys. So again, if you're not already a client, go ahead and visit us at sbtdc.uark.edu. Okay, so who are you? This is one of my favorite topics because behavior is everywhere. It's the foundation of everything we do, how we communicate, how we lead, how we build relationships, how we have successful conflict. So it really is important to understand behavior. And that's why I had you guys take that assessment before now. But again, it's not a big deal if you didn't. You can take it afterwards. You'll probably know as I start explaining each style, which one you are right away. So we're going to talk about three things today. I want to talk about understanding behaviors, insights into not only your style, but other people's style, and then how to lead and communicate by understanding these behaviors a little bit better. So like I said earlier, understanding behavior is really the foundation of everything that we do. And it's really our mirror. So it's how we look at ourselves, our self-awareness, and how we look at others. So like I said, it's one of my favorite topics. It's something I talk about just about every day. And it really does help individuals with really all aspects of their personal and professional life. What I want you to do is write down, if you could learn one thing in the next hour about behavior, whether it's your behavior or somebody else's behavior, go ahead and just jot that down, because I want to make sure I answer that question by the end of this session. And if not, I really want you to stay on and talk a little bit more. If you have questions that are unanswered, or contact me through email and we can hop on a call or a Zoom. The DISC assessment. Now, I know there's a lot of different assessments out there, but the DISC assessment is my favorite assessment because it really does assess your behavior. It's not about your personality. Your personality was really set in stone at a very early age, and we don't want to change that or touch that. Your behavior, you can adjust. Your behavior, you have control over, and you can change little by little in situations or circumstances or with people, so you get success from that conversation or that situation. There are over 47 million individuals that have taken this assessment, and there are 4 different behavioral styles that I'll explain in just a little bit. We are a combination of all 4, so keep that in mind. So if one of the assessments or the behavioral styles is something that you kind of have a hard time getting along with, or I'm talking about it and a person pops into your head that is a little bit harder to deal with, remember that you've got a little bit of that in you too. So we are a combination of all 4 styles. 6,200. That is a number that sticks in my head, and I say over and over again in almost all my presentations. That is how many average thoughts that we have a day. So we have all these thoughts, and what happens is we're going straight from a thought to a behavior and not taking that middle time to really understand who we're talking to, what the situation is, how can we handle this situation better than maybe we did last time. So it's a lot of work that we have to do throughout the day to make sure that our conversations, our relationships are really successful and positive. So remember that number, because I think it's a really important number for you to apply back to understanding the behavioral styles. So if you did take the assessment, you're going to have a big chunk of the pie that is going to kind of stick out to you. with this example that I have up here, the red part is the big chunk for this individual, which is the dominance. And this is not my assessment, but this actually is very close to what I am. So you've got the dominant style, the influential style, the steadiness style, and the compliance style. So one of yours is kind of separated from the rest of the pie, and that's your dominant style. But if you'll notice in this example, there is a piece of pie in all four of those categories. So this individual has all four behavioral styles in them. There's just a dominant style and maybe even a secondary style that you show at work and in your personal life. So let me just first go over kind of the big picture of the assessment. You've got the four different behavioral styles. You've got the dominant style, the influential style, the steadiness style, and then the conscientious or compliance style, depending on which assessment you take. The one word for each one of these styles: dominance would be results, influence would be relationships, steadiness would be team, and conscientiousness or compliance would be accuracy. So there's going to be kind of people that could pop in your head just for me saying just those one words of where you could put those individuals. And I want you to think like that too. So as I'm explaining each one of these, when I talk about the D's or the dominant, write down 3 names that you think I'm talking about. 3 people in either your personal life or your professional life that you really feel that kind of lands in that category most of the time. And then we'll do the same for I's, the same for S's, and the same for C's. So the dominant style, this is one of the styles that's going to be really easy to see from a mile away because these are fast-paced people. They are very open. They are very direct. They're blunt in some circumstances. At the end of the day, they want to win and they want results. So here's some characteristics. Again, they're very fast-paced. They're focused on data. They are very confident in what they're doing. They want results. They like to answer emails fast. They like to be on phone calls and wrap those up fast. They like to make decisions fast. So again, it's somebody that's usually comfortable in what they're doing and they want to get to the end because again, at the end of the day, it's all about results. They are great at keeping the team focused because they're looking at the overall big picture, the deadlines, the budgets. So they're the ones kind of just overviewing and seeing over everything. Now, they're not a lot of times the ones that want to kind of dig into the deep and get the tasks done, you know, the little details, but they're very visionary, they're very creative, and they like the big picture. Now, I wanted to kind of bucket these into 4 really important categories: traits, values, motivations, and under stress. And the traits, just like I said, they're results driven. They're focused on data. Their values, solutions. And I'll talk a little bit more later with communicating. But the number one thing that you could do with a D to get along with them and to really succeed is if you have a situation, an issue, an idea, you need to go to them with solutions. And that is going to play out so much better than if you go with a problem and say, well, I have no idea what to do. That's why I'm bringing it to you. The D's, the dominant style, really want solutions. They're motivated by problem solving, results, winning. Under stress, and I know that this has occurred a lot in the last couple of years with a lot of unknowns that have been thrown our way. Under stress, the D's can come out a little bit more impatient, maybe a little bit more getting it done, aggressive, a little forceful. If you've met a D in the last 2 years, one of the things, again, with all of these behavioral styles is we've seen a lot of people under stress. So we've seen that last little circle kind of jump out more than the other 3. So just know as things kind of die down a little bit and people get a little bit more comfortable with the new normal, the under stress bucket in all 4 of these behavioral styles will tend to tame down too. Okay, I'm going to come back over to you guys and see if there are any questions in the chat box as of now over the D's. Okay. Okay, I don't see any. Okay, I'll move on. But again, the D's, you guys, just to wrap the D's up, they are results focused, they're blunt, they're very direct and straight with answering emails. They will wrap up a phone call probably before you want them to wrap up a phone call, but they're fast paced. They like a lot going on and they like challenges. So I'll talk a little bit later about communicating a little bit differently with the D's and even how to lead them a little bit differently. Okay, so the I's, the influential group. This is going to be, you're going to have some names pop into your head when I'm explaining these two pretty easy because they're like the D's. They're fast paced. They like a lot going on, but they're the relationship part. That's their big primary behavioral style. So they like a lot of people in their lives. They like teams. They want to work on teams. They're great networkers. You know, they'll go to a party and they'll be the ones that will introduce themselves right away. The cup is always half full for this group of people. So again, at the end of the day, they're all about results, and that comes around to people. This is the group that I really think understood all of these assessments years and years ago before they even came out, because they knew how important relationships were. And you build relationships by understanding behavior and then accommodating to that behavior, that situation. They will listen, they will give feedback. A lot of times with this group, they love creative ideas, but then, you know, to all the going to kind of fall on another group that I'm going to talk about in just a little bit. So just know that they want to help, they want to solve problems. They just want to give to situations and to people. Now, therefore, it's the traits, again, they're fast paced, they're extroverted, and again, it's a happy environment a lot. So when you take them to any networking events, they're going to be the ones that are happy and introducing you and the company and everything. They value people, they value individuality, they're motivated by recognition, and it doesn't even need to be a lot. So for the I's, they're going to be big cheerleaders, and they're going to back your idea and back your leadership, back your business if they feel appreciated. So even just a simple thank you to the I's is huge for them. And I think you can probably think of who I'm talking about right now. They will light up if you say, hey, thank you so much for coming in. Thank you for staying the weekend. You really were key in making sure that this project ended successfully. So once you do that and they feel appreciated, they will give 200%. Under stress, this is the that became maybe a little bit more emotional, and they get a little frustrated easier. They get a little upset easier. But again, if you've met an I in the last 2 years, that's not their norm. They're going to come back around, and they're the ones that really support everybody around them. Okay, I'm going to pause here for some questions about the I's. Okay, so let me know again if you have any questions. I'll pause a couple more times also, but the I's, just remember, they're all about influence. They're all about relationships. They're all about people. So they're going to make sure when they're thinking about anything, making a decision, leading, people are always going to be the first and foremost thing that kind of pops into their head. So they're the relationship group. Okay, let me go back to our PowerPoint. Now the S's. Okay, this is going to be a group that's a little bit harder for you to kind of think about for those individuals in your life and your professional life, because they're a little bit more, they stay back, they're a little quieter of a group. They observe everything that's going on around them, but they will be the quieter ones that kind of sit in the back a little bit more. They're all about team. They're all about going to work, getting the job done, leaving the drama at home or out of it completely, and just going home. They like to come and do the same usually over and over again. They like calm, they like steady, they like the status quo. So this group of people are going to be the ones that probably, if you bring everybody together and you're talking about a new idea or a new path, maybe you want to go, a new product you want to maybe sell, they're going to be the ones that are going to sit back and probably not add a whole lot to the conversation at first, because what this group does, they take the past, they take how it's going to affect everybody, they watch what's going on, listen to everything that's going on, in that meeting. They're going to gather all the data and then think about it before they offer a decision. So don't push an S to offer a decision, because first of all, it doesn't make them feel comfortable, and they're probably just going to tell you what they think you need to hear or want to hear. So this group, they'll sit back, they will observe, they will take everything into account, and then they will offer suggestions or decisions. It might be the next day, it might be the next week, but they are going to take everything into account, and that's a really good trait of the S's. They're very easy to get along with. Like I said, they don't like drama. They will not add to drama. Change, and again, in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of change that's been thrown at us. And S's, a lot of times, unnecessary change or unexplained change, they're not comfortable with. So if you've known anybody in the last couple of years that you think you're kind of pegging as an S, they probably withdrew a little bit more than they normally would. And you'll kind of start to see them come out of their shell a little bit more here coming up. So the steadiness, the S's, their traits, again, they're a little bit more slower paced. They're loyal, they're dependable, they're consistent. Their values, again, security, things have got to make sense, and they've got to believe it. They've got to feel sincere that you're being sincere to them about anything that you're talking to them about. And then motivations, they love to be on teams, they love to collaborate, and they just want a calm environment. And then stressors, like I said just a second ago, they will tend to withdraw a little bit more under stress. So you've probably seen the S's in your life maybe get a little quieter than normal and withdraw a little bit more than they did before. Okay, any questions about the S's? Okay, Trace, I hear that you said that you don't see the PowerPoint. Does anybody else see the PowerPoint okay? I want to make sure you guys can see that. Okay, I'm going to reshare it. Hold on just a second, and let's see if I can reshare it here. Okay, there we go. Okay, now can you see it now? Okay, great. Okay, sorry about that, guys. I will send this PowerPoint to you guys, so you're going to have all this information at your fingertips, and you'll have my email, and you can harass me as much as you want, because I love talking about this stuff. So make sure that you do get a hold of this presentation. So again, I am so sorry about that, but I'm kind of telling you a little bit more than what's even on the presentation. Okay, the C's. The C's are all about compliance, accuracy, and they want the thing done, whatever it is, they want it done right. So if it's a task, they're not going to a lot of times hand off task or anything else, because they want it done right. And if they understand the task, they'll be the ones that will do it right and want to hang on to it. So some of the traits of the C's, the compliance or conscientious, if you take another assessment that I offer, but they're a little bit more slower paced, because they're taking in all the data. They want to know, how is this going to work? What's the deadline, the budget? They want all the data before they really kind of buy into anything. And they'll be the ones that are going to look at all the details and the accuracy and all those little tiny bullet points that the rest of us probably don't like to look at as much. But they're very diplomatic. They like rules and regulations. They follow them. It's not a lot of gray with them. It's black and white. If you set a rule, you better follow it with the C's. It only makes sense to them. They're motivated by quality. They're a group that do like to work kind of on their own and in the background. So I would probably not throw this group of people into a team every day, all day, because they really like to work on their own. And then the 4 bubbles. And for those of you guys that were not seeing this PowerPoint, there's 4 bubbles for all of the 4 that I've been talking about. But the traits, again, they're more methodical. They're analytical. So they're going to kind of step back and take it all in. Their values are all about quality, accuracy, sticking to the rules. Motivations, They like a lot of the details. That's what motivates them. Anything that's number driven, statistic driven, a lot of times the C's really are motivated by that. And then under stress, in the last couple of years, maybe you've seen them be a little bit more resistant. They're a little bit maybe more critical. And it's usually because they're so critical of themselves, it will overflow into other aspects. So you might see a little bit of that, but it's nothing, you know, again, that they're trying to do to other people. It's just they're all about knowing what's going on, having the rules and the regulations to follow, and everything is just consistent. Okay, I'm going to come back to you guys and make sure I don't have any questions. Okay, good. I'm so glad you guys were still following me because I get so excited about this. I will talk a mile a minute. So that's why I want to make sure that you get all this information when we're done with this. Okay, so let me just kind of summarize again. The D's are dominant. They're all about results and data. The I's are influential. They're all about relationships and people. The S's are steadiness. They're all about people and steady, being steady and teams. And then you've got the C's that are all about accuracy and data. So there's a lot that these groups have in common. For example, the D's and the C's are all about data. The I's and the S's are all about people. Then when you talk about the D's and the I's, they're all fast-paced or more fast-paced than normal. And then the C's and the S's are a little bit more methodical paced. I have this question a lot. What happens with the opposites? The D's, the S's, the I's, and the C's. I do tend to see a little bit more conflict between the opposites than I do between anybody that's a little bit, maybe two D's. I see a little bit more, it might not be outright, but a little bit more maybe conflict between the D's and the S's. It might be subtle, but a little bit more conflict between those two, and then the I's and the C's. And again, if I'm talking about situations at work or in your guys' life that you want to talk through, let me know, because a lot of times I can explain. You know, we always wonder why people act the way they do. You know, why can I get along with this person? Great, but I see a phone call come in from this person and I don't even want to answer it. Well, it's because we just haven't learned what their behavioral style is and maybe how to adjust to that for a successful relationship. Communication. This is one of the most important things I think that we could be doing right now successfully. And I kind of boiled this down into communicating in conflict, because really the two go hand in hand. And I have a lot of individuals right now that are asking me, how do I avoid conflict? How do I handle it? How do I talk to an individual that maybe I need to discipline? Conflict does not have to be bad. If you know how to speak and to talk to each one of these groups, it can go over much better than what you can even possibly imagine. So the D's, they want to win, remember. So they want the big picture. They're the bottom line approach. If you're going to go in and talk to a D, they don't want to hear about your whole weekend over and over again. And it's not that they don't care. When they're at work, they're there to get results. They're going to be pretty direct. They want solutions, and they want the emotion left out of it. The I's, there again, that it's the friendly approach. So they're going to want to kind of take a little bit of time at the beginning. You know, how's your daughter doing? How did volleyball go over the weekend? They want you to, you know, ask them. They want to create that personal bond. They're all about relationships. So if they feel like you know a little bit about them and you care about them, again, leading them is really easy to do. Then you've got the S's, and remember that the S's, they're more about being sincere, and they just want the truth. They want harmony. They want transparency. Again, they're just really solid team working people. And then you've got the C's, and they want the details. They want all the information. This is the group out of all four of them that I really feel that is more misunderstood than the other three, because they ask why a lot. Why are we doing this? Why are we changing this? Why is the deadline 2 days away? They're not asking why to be difficult. And I think that's how they're perceived a lot of the time. They want to know the why because they're trying to get it straight in their head. They're very analytical individuals. And if point A doesn't go to point B and go to point C, they're going to call us out on it. And again, it's not because they want to be difficult. They're the ones that really a lot of times call me out and saying, okay, why are we going from point A to Z? Well, because I'm kind of the big picture person. Well, because point A is the start and point Z is the end, and we can get there easy. They're the ones that do all the information and details in between and kind of hold my feet to the fire when I want to just kind of take off running. So they're not being difficult asking the why. They're really kind of simplifying the whole process for the rest of us by asking the whys. Nonverbal communication. This is big. If you understand somebody's behavioral style, the nonverbal is going to be really important for you to pick up on. And this was a study done back in 1935, and it's been replicated over and over throughout the years. So it kind of varies a little bit. So some of you might have seen this before. It's not so much the numbers that I want to talk about, is really the overall purpose of nonverbal communication. So when you have a conversation, if it could be over Zoom, it can be in person, a little bit of it over the phone, email, but there's a certain part of the conversation that you walk away from that you have an understanding from the words that individual said, their tone of voice, and their body language. So every conversation, we walk away and we either understand we're on the same page or we think we are, but we walk away from the understanding a certain percentage from the words that we understood from the conversation, the tone of voice that was there for the conversation, and the body language. And here's the percentages. 7% we will understand from the words. So the meaning of the message, when we walk away from a conversation, 7% is attributed to the words. 38%. I have 32% down there. 38% is tone of voice, and 55% is body language. So what this tells me, and somebody said this a long time ago, you're never not communicating. And I think we forget that. I think when we roll our eyes or sigh, nobody's picking up on that. But remember, over 80 to 90% of all communication is nonverbal. So if I'm going to communicate with a D, if I'm going to communicate with an I or an S or a C, I've got to understand the body language that they're kind of feeding off, because the D is going to be more direct. And so they're going to be a little bit more, especially if it's a stressful situation, a little bit more direct and blunt about the conversation. So their tone might be a little bit more direct. They might be a little bit more standoffish. Even reading a room, walking into a meeting, I have so many times people will walk in or they'll get on a phone call, on a conference call or a Zoom, and they immediately will maybe tell a joke. And I want to say, do you not hear the tension or feel the tension that's in this room right now? A joke was probably not the right thing to do. So the nonverbal communication is also reading the room, reading the situation, as well as reading the individual. Couple other slides that I wanted to contribute to the communication. So this is kind of, again, breaks down the D's, the I's, and the S's, and the C's. The D's and the I's tell and direct. Again, they're fast paced. They want a lot going on. They're the ones that are going to tell and direct. The C's and the S's are going to ask, and they're going to be a little bit more indirect. The D's and the C's are going to want to control the situation a little bit more, or the conversation or the decision, where the I's and the S's are going to be more accepting, because again, they're all about the people side of things. And then decision making. I have seen a lot of conflict, disagreements, probably in the last 6 months, because of decision making only. And it's crazy to me, but if we understand that people make decisions based on different facts at different paces, it's going to be so much more understandable where somebody kind of plants their feet. So the D's and the I's, they're going to make quick decisions. They'll make them on the fly. They'll make them if you're sitting down at the conference room table, they'll make a decision right then, or even at least give their opinion. The C's and the S's are going to be a little bit more systematic, analytical. So they're going to take a little slower time, a little bit more time to make those decisions. And then remember, and I know I'm repeating myself a little bit on this, but the D's and the C's are tasks and results. The I's and the S's are people and relationship. So once you, especially if you're leading a group, if you can even plot them on the left side of this circle or on the right side of the circle, that alone will give you so much information on how to communicate with them, discipline them, lead them. The left is data driven, the right is people driven. Okay, I'm going to pause there for just a second and come back and see if anybody has any questions. Okay. So on reading the room, if tense, what do you do? One of the first things that I do, because I walk into a lot of these situations, is I don't say a thing. I sit back and observe, and I figure out what's going on, because a lot of times you can see what's going on with the individuals or hear what's happening. But as an I and as a D, what I try to do is I've got the data and the people, but again, I'm so fast paced that I want to get to a solution pretty quick if it's tense. And so once I read the room a little bit and kind of see where the tension is coming from, if it's coming from a D, I can kind of relate, and that D wants solutions. If it's coming from an I, maybe somebody's hurt their feelings, and I can kind of contribute to that situation there too. But the best thing to do when you walk into a room or a situation or a conversation and you feel that it's tense is to just observe. That's probably the best advice I can give. Okay, I added this slide just this morning because I thought it was kind of a fun, the mottos slide. So the D's, can we just decide? Let's go. The I's, can we brainstorm? Can we talk about this? Can we make sure we include everybody in on this? The S's, let's get the whole team's input. It's going to be calm. We're going to talk through it. And I want to hear what everybody has to say. And then the C's are, let's review more data. One example I give a lot of time in my presentations is the elevator. And I think this is kind of a fun example, but the D's, if you're going to get on an elevator, the D's are usually the first people that push that button because they want to get to the floor that they want to get to. And if it's not going fast enough, you'll sometimes see the D push the button again. The I's are going to strike up a conversation inside the elevator, or they're at least going to say good morning. The S's are going to be the ones that are going to kind of sit back, and they're probably going to let, if they're standing there with a group of people, they'll let everybody else on the elevator before they get on the elevator. And I joke around with the C's. They probably, you C's out there probably don't do this, but there's always a weight limit on the inside of the elevator. And I always tease that the C's are kind of adding up all of our weight to make sure that we are sticking to that rule. So really in all situations, there's kind of a fun example to give about each one of these styles. Okay, leading. So I know a lot of you guys are small business owners. A lot of you guys are leading. It might be a team of 1, it might be a team of 200. But once you peg the individuals that you're leading, I can promise you this, I've been doing this for 22 years. It is so much easier to lead them based on their behavior rather than based on their expertise, based on how long they've been there, based on how well you like them. If you can lead them based on their behavioral style, you will get a lot more productivity. You will retain employees. They'll be more engaged. So I've seen this a million times. Understanding behavior is one of the best ways that you can lead other individuals. So I'm just going to throw out these 3 or these 4 slides. So how to lead a D, they're going to want the what. They're going to want the challenge. So if you've got a new task or a new project that you want somebody to really lead, a D, you can motivate a D by giving them that unknown task. They love challenges. They like authority, so they like to be in charge of a project or a group. They do not like to be micromanaged. It's one of those things that if you give them something to do, you better let them run with it. The I's, again, how to lead the I's, they're all about the who. So I said this earlier, and this is one of the easiest things that you can do with leading an I. They just want to feel appreciated. And that's by maybe knowing something about them. It's by maybe asking them how their son is doing. Maybe he hurt his ankle, and come Monday, you ask how he's doing. That goes such a long way with an I. They really feel like you've taken a personal approach and interest in them. And the I's are all about relationships. And so the best way to lead them is in a personal manner. And then the S's, leading the S's, they're all about the how. And one of the best things I can tell you about the S's is they don't like change just for the sake of change, even good change. It's one of those things, if it doesn't make sense, why are you going to even throw a curveball at them? They're all about loyalty, dependability, coming to work and getting the job done. So if you're going to make a change with an S, if you're leading an S, you need to give them a heads up. Even if it's a good change, you might think that they're just going to love it because they've been asking for it forever, but you don't just throw a change at them come Monday morning and not have them prepared. So that's one of the best things that you can do for an S is just make sure, any new idea that's coming along, any new person that's being hired, any change that's going to affect them in the least, that you give them a heads up. And then the C's, like I said earlier, they're all about the whys. If you can give them the whys, they will take that information and that data and they will run with it. And they will reproduce an Excel spreadsheet, an Access database, but something way more than you even possibly could ask for. So just remember, you've got to let them analyze. You've got to let them crunch numbers, and you've got to give them the whys. I had a leader not very long ago say, I shouldn't have to explain myself. And I said, well, you shouldn't have to, but if you want to get the most out of that C, I would do it. And he did. He said that's one of the best things that he's ever done is just even explaining a little bit to his right-hand person that was a solid C, why he was making the decisions he was. And so he didn't have to go into too much detail, just a little bit of the why, and that individual ran with it. So they're really, you want them on your team and you want them happy. So make sure that you tell them the whys. DISC and others. How do I figure out? So I asked you to think of 3 names of individuals that you think I'm explaining as a D or an I or an S or a C. You might have some individuals that you're still trying to figure out maybe what they are. So I put this diagram up because this really does help. And it really boils down to 2 questions, but I put a lot more information in there than the 2. Are they outgoing or are they more an introvert? Okay, that's one. Are they fast-paced? Are they slower paced? Are they outgoing, extroverted? Are they introverted? So again, in most cases, they're not going to probably be that way the entire time, every day in and out, but overall at work, are they extroverted or introverted? Okay, fast-paced or slower paced? After you answer that question, are they more focused on data, numbers, results, or are they more focused on team, people, and relationships? Okay, really, it comes down to really those 2 questions. And so here's another slide I'm going to let you guys have after this, but are they outgoing and direct? Are they reserved or indirect? So if they're outgoing and direct, they're D's and I's. If they're reserved and indirect, they're S and C's. If they're results oriented, they're a D or C. And if they're people oriented, they're an I and an S. Okay, so reserved and focused on results is, outgoing and focused on people is, 4 questions. Outgoing and focused on results, reserved and focused on people. So take just a second. I know I've covered a lot of information, but just these 4 questions. Who would be reserved and focused on results? The D, I, S, or C? Who would be outgoing and focused on people? Would that be the D, I, S, or C? Who's outgoing and focused on results? Which one of those 4 would it be? And then would it be D, I, S, or C for reserved and focused on people? Okay, so really those 4 questions, you're going to be able to peg almost everybody that you work with and everybody in your personal life. So here are the answers. Reserved and focused on results are C's. Outgoing and focused on people are I's. Outgoing and focused on results are D's. And reserved and focused on people are S's. So you're going to lead that first group, the C's, with information, answering their whys. You're going to lead number 2, the outgoing and focused people, with a personal touch. Get to know them a little bit and make that personal connection. Outgoing and focused on results, Give them challenges, give them, things to lead. They'll love that. And then reserved and focused on people are S's. Put a solid team together and give them transparent information to work on a team or a group together, and let them go, and they will be a steady force to be reckoned with. Okay, I'm going to come back and see if there's any other questions, because I've thrown a lot at you guys. Okay. Okay, let me finish up then. Homework. Now, one thing, if you could do anything from this time that we've spent together, is self-awareness is so key. If you own a business, if you're a leader, you have got to really understand your self-awareness before you can really be successful with understanding other people's behaviors and then leading them. So as a D, what I really implore you to do is slow down and listen. If Ds add just a little people skills, just a little, they can be hugely successful. I was talking to a D yesterday, and I said, a D and an I, if I said the same thing to them, D add a little bit of people skills, I add a little bit of people skills. Because I are so focused on people and relationships, it would take a lot for people to say, oh yeah, they're really adding some people skills. D's, it doesn't take much. It takes a question. How was your weekend? Smiling down the hallway, good morning with a smile. It doesn't take D's much to really advance and be successful as leaders, only just to add a little bit of people skills. The I's, you've got to remember with the I's, you've got to slow down a little bit, because I's are pleasers. They want to help. They want to solve. They want to offer all the information that they can to make everything good again. I's really need to slow down, and before you say yes to something, really think about, do you have the capacity to say yes? Is it something that you should say yes to? Because this is a group of yes people. Yep, we can do it. I can do it. Give me the weekend. So if I's just slow down, they will not overcommit. And sometimes when I's overcommit, they can't get what they need done because they've overcommitted to everybody. So the I's, if I could tell you that just to slow down a little bit, that would be key. And then the S's, this is the group that needs to say no more, okay? If you're leading S's, they're not going to say no to a whole lot. So they're going to put every task on top, and then you're going to wonder why they're not getting their tasks done, why they're procrastinating. It's because they're putting everybody ahead of them. So if you're an S, what I need you to do, and there is a very polite, respectful way of saying no. I can't get to that today, but I can tomorrow. I think Michelle would be a little bit better for that if you want to ask her and then come back to me. So there's so many ways that S's can say no that is polite and they feel comfortable doing. And then the C's, again, the C's can come across a little bit aloof. If you're going to have a potluck at work, they're probably not going to even come down and make a plate. But if they do, they're going to make a plate and probably go back to their desk. And everybody's going to be saying, why is Bill like that? Why can't he just come down and join us? C's are focused on work. They're focused on data. So they will come across a little aloof. But if you're a leader, you don't have that priority to do that. So you're going to have to add a little bit of people skills if you're leading and you're a C. Okay, I'm going to come back to you guys in just a second, but I want you guys to think. At the beginning of the hour, I said, write down one thing that you want to learn about either yourself, your behavior, self-awareness, or somebody else. And I want to ask if any of you guys would be willing to share one thing that you learned that would help the others that are on this webinar. So I'm going to come back and see. Okay, I've got some in the Q&A too. So body language, that is really key. And remember, you guys, over 80 to 90%, we're communicating and we don't even know that we're doing that. Why body language is so important and so high is it's because it's the most honest form of communication. So you can't lie with your body language. And believe it or not, people pick up on your body language more than what you think they do. So just remember, you're never not communicating in every situation. And then not to take things so personal. And I was coaching somebody the other day, and I suggested the book, The Four Agreements. It is a great book. And one of the things that it says, and I should memorize this because I've read it a million times, is don't take things personally, because it's not about you. And kind of how selfish of you to think that it is about you all the time. But it kind of put me in my place with not taking things as personally. And again, if we're an I, we might take a D a little bit more personally, but we've got to stop and remember that D doesn't mean that. That D is just trying to get the job done. And so if they come across a little abrupt or a little gruff, it's nothing against you. Did my face say that out loud? That sometimes it does, and you're like, oh my gosh, did anybody just see that? So yeah, you can't hide body language. Tone, you can kind of temper your tone down a little bit, but and you can really control your words. I a lot of times am really thinking about what I'm gonna say before I say it, but my body language, believe me, it doesn't lie. When you know that I am not happy, I am not happy. The D may mean it, but not mean it towards that person. That is so true. They're frustrated, maybe if they come across like that with not getting it done. Maybe they've dropped the ball on something. But you guys, D's are doers. They want to get stuff done, and they're not going to waste time doing it. And when I'm in my D mode, and it's usually on the weekends, I have a honey to-do list, and we are not going to go for a walk until we get that honey to-do list done. And again, it's how we're made, and understanding the different behaviors and how to handle that really does help. My husband's an S, so opposites. Remember I was saying about the opposites. So he knows when to kind of make sure we get the honey to-do list done. I know when to say, okay, I'm done. We need to go for a walk. It's about the task. Awesome. Well, you guys, like I said, I know I've given a lot of information. I do these presentations, and sometimes they're 2 hours, 4 hours, or all day. So I try to give you kind of the big picture of the behaviors and what they want and how they communicate and how to lead them. But don't forget my email, because you can ask me any personal questions. We can hop on a Zoom, but it's ccase@walton.uark.edu. So please take advantage of that, and let me know if you guys have any questions at all, or want to talk through maybe an employee, a situation, how to handle something maybe coming up. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. Like I said, we had a lot to share with you, a lot of really good information on behavior, communication, and even leading. You can make sure that if you want to contact us, don't forget to contact us at sbtdc.uark.edu. And you can also follow us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. We have a lot to offer. So if you go to our website and you go to events, there's a lot of great events coming up that hit maybe cash flow, just all over the gamut, marketing. Please make sure you go and check that out, because I'm going to actually be an attendee of a lot of those. So make sure that you do check those out, because it's a lot of really good information, and our consultants are the best. I'm going to come back and see if there's any more questions. Well, thank you guys again so much for coming. And remember, behavior is the foundation of everything we do. If you can take the time and understand the behavior, instead of going straight from the conversation into the thought to acting, take that time to understand what's going on, who you're talking to, the nonverbal stuff that's going on around you. And I promise you, life will be easier. It will be less conflict, better leading, more things accomplished. It'll be really great. So make sure that you do that. If you need anything, I'm going to put my email in the chat box. But if you need anything, please reach out.